Welcome back to the Theme Park Realm YouTube channel, and welcome back to another new episode of Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. And in today's video we are carrying on work on the brand new space themed area. Now I've only been working on this area now so far for one episode, so this is the second episode. Obviously in the last video, if you haven't seen it already, do go and check it out. But in the last video we started work on the area, and it was basically just a case of getting this brand new roller coaster in place. And obviously, like I said in the last video, the idea with this roller coaster is that it's going to be kind of partially indoors and partially outside. So you kind of see that as we go through the video as I kind of zoom out. But yeah, it's kind of like a partial indoor ride. I wanted something a little bit different to what we did in the Halloween area. But what I'm doing at the moment is I'm just kind of working on the back walls of and just kind of finishing off the actual indoor section of this ride. Because in the last video I did kind of focus on the outdoor area. So there was like a few holes and stuff here and there in like the roof and stuff like that. So I'm just finishing off, just making sure that you kind of can't see this kind of space theme from the haunted sort of side of the park, because obviously what backs onto this coaster is the actual haunted area. So I'm kind of just making sure that you can't see anything from the haunted area. I've added kind of just a plain black wall. I might go back in the future and I might go over that again with something else. I might add some more like spooky theme into the back of it, just so that it blends in more with that spooky area. But I think for now, just having like a black wall there is, you know, that's absolutely fine for now. It's not going to sort of, it's just kind of like a neutral section between both of the zones of the park. But you can see I'm actually quite happy with how the ride's turned out. I don't know if in the future I'll go back and maybe add some more detail to the actual building. You can see I am trying to add more detail to it, but at the moment it kind of looks a little bit boxy, I think. So I might go back and like make some more modifications to it, just because I feel like it needs to be sort of less boxy. I don't know whether like adding more of those kind of like curve sections to it or something like that might help. But I think with that I may go back in the future and just kind of add a little bit more detail to it, just because it does look like a bit of a box. I know that if you kind of look at it from the front, and obviously if you imagine if you were like a peep in the park looking at it, you'd only kind of see the front of it anyway. So I suppose it doesn't really matter what's on like kind of the roof, because it's only really the roof that's kind of really boxy. But I don't know, I might still go back and just add a little bit more detail to it, just so it does look a little bit better sort of from like an overhead point of view. Because you've got to bear in mind as well that people, you know, when they're actually on the roller coaster, they will see the roof from up there. So you kind of are looking down on the building from the very top of that lift hill. So I think it would be beneficial maybe to add a little bit more detail to it, but I'm kind of just trying to get it all finished off, you know, in this video, just so that, you know, it's at a point where it's okay, you know, it's pretty much ready to go. And obviously if anyone's got any suggestions on what you'd like me to see, you know, what you'd like me to do kind of to this building, then do let me know, because I'm, you know, as I say, I'm always open to any ideas that people do have, and I'll see what I can do to kind of implement that into the actual design of the building. But I think for now, you know, it's good for what it is. It does what it needs to do. It does look quite cool from below. I just think maybe something on the roof, maybe. I mean, who knows? Maybe we could squeeze like a flat ride or something on the roof. I don't know, but I think I need to go back and add something to the roof. Whether I just make it more curved or I actually put a ride up there, I don't know. But I'm definitely going to do something with that at kind of like a later stage. Maybe in a few videos' time, or maybe at the very end of the series, I'll go back and have a little look at that. I was also trying to kind of work out what, you know, the best kind of theme would be for the floor. I think the best thing for the floor is going to be just to have that kind of like rocky effect for it. You've got to imagine this is, you know, meant to be some sort of alien planet, so I don't think like dirt really kind of cuts it. I think that kind of like rock theme, you know, is going to look really good. But anyway, here we are now moving on to the next roller coaster in this area, and what I've decided to go for is a dive coaster. Now I did have a lot of suggestions. A lot of people have been asking me to build a dueling coaster and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I've not gone for that at this point, just because there isn't really that much room to work with, and I was trying to think like, oh, what ride should I install next? And I just think a vertical drop coaster works perfectly in this area, because you could almost think of it as having like kind of like a backstory, like we're drilling, you know, straight into the ground. That's kind of like my thinking behind it anyway. It's kind of like a drilling, kind of like mining sort of thing that you're going to see, and that's kind of how I'm going to try and theme it as well. So I think it's, you know, a good way of kind of, you know, fitting a ride into kind of like the concept of the whole area. I don't know what I would have done, you know, with a dueling coaster, because I know someone suggested like the aliens versus humans concept, which would have been good, but that's kind of what I've already gone for with the, you know, the coaster that we built in the last video. So I think a dive coaster was definitely the right thing to install. Now I do have a little bit of a nightmare with this, just trying to sort of get it round everything that I've already built, but I do get there eventually. I do have to sort of keep making changes to it to try and get it to work. As you can see there, it's taken a massive chunk out the actual path, but in the end I managed to sort of modify the track and get it to actually fit in that area. But you know, all in all, I was really happy with this dive coaster. I think it's a really good ride to kind of have in the area, and like I say, I just think it fits the theme perfectly. By the way, the yellow colour scheme, I don't go for that in the end. I change that to green. You can see that I've put kind of like a yellow on the rails. I do change that to green, so you've got this coaster is green, and then the one next to it's got blue rails, and I just think that looks quite cool. It just makes it sort of blend in with the rest of the area. But yeah, I was actually really happy with how this ride turned out. I think it looked really cool, and I think it rides really well, and you'll kind of see as it sort of develops, but it's got some nice elements to it, and it's very different to any of the other rides that I've got in the park. And that's another thing that I was looking for with this, was kind of building something that was unique, you know, compared to everything else that we've got. And there isn't a dive coaster in the park at all. You know, there's plenty of coasters that go kind of up and down, you know, and do loops and stuff like that, but there's no sort of vertical straight down dive coasters. So that's why I went for this, and I think, you know, thinking back at it, I do think this was the right coaster to install. But, you know, who knows? A dueling coaster, I may fit one in somewhere. I just don't know at the moment. I think for this area right now, obviously there's going to be two main coasters that we've got there, and then there's also going to be kind of food outlets, a few flat rides. I'm not 100% sure what flat rides I'm going to go for yet, but in the next video we're going to put a few flat rides in and try and get them to kind of fit in nicely. And you know, I think this is going to be a really nice area. I wasn't quite sure at first, but now that it's kind of really coming together, I can see this actually becoming one of my favourite areas in the park. I said that, you know, the exact same thing about the spooky area. Like when I first started building it, I wasn't 100% sure about it, but then sort of as I went through it more and more, and I got more and more detail in there, the spooky area was exactly the same. It kind of like grew on me, and I think this area is going to do the same. I think, you know, I was a little bit unsure about it to begin with, but I think, you know, once I've got all the detail in there, I think it's going to be a really cool area. Now that loop, that vertical loop, didn't work, unfortunately. I really wanted to get like a vertical loop in there to sort of like, you know, it was like a last kind of kick before you hit the brake run, but unfortunately it was losing too much speed, and I just couldn't quite get that vertical loop to work, so I do end up taking that vertical loop out completely. It made it round the vertical loop itself. It wasn't so much that, but it was kind of like afterwards, it kind of like just meandered around the track, and I couldn't really get it to work. It was almost like that loop was just kind of taking out a little bit too much energy from the coaster. So in the end, I got rid of the loop, and I just sort of had like almost like a curved section going back into the brake run. But yeah, you know, it was I was really happy with it. As I say, overall, I think it's a really cool, you know, a really cool ride. I'm just thinking, actually, did I keep the loop? No, I'm pretty sure I got rid of the loop, or maybe I did keep it. No, do you know what I did? I did keep the loop. I changed the coaster, so it was on like high friction. I lowered the friction on the coaster, and that's how I got it to work. I was just thinking, I did record this a few days ago, so I thought that I'd taken the loop out, but I did keep it in there. I'm quite glad about that, actually, because like I said, I really wanted the loop there for kind of that like sort of final kick before you hit the brake run. It's almost like Nemesis at Alton Towers. You know, you get to the very end of the ride, but it doesn't slow down. Like it's got like, you know, that inversion that's like really low to the ground. It's almost like that kind of thing. You know, on Nemesis, it just like doesn't slow down. And like I say, you know, when you get to the very end of the ride normally, and that's what they said when they were kind of designing it, normally when you get to the end of a roller coaster, it kind of gets slower and slower and then starts meandering round. But on Nemesis, it just gets like lower and lower, and then you end up going through like a, you know, like a barrel roll at the very end, and that's just like almost against the ground, like it's that low to the ground. But it just gives you that kind of like final kick before you actually hit the brake run. So I really like it when, you know, when coasters do stuff like that, like have that one kind of like final surprise. And I feel like this dive coaster has that vertical loop as its sort of final surprise before you go back into the station. But yeah, you can see what I'm doing now is I'm building up like the station building. So this is a really strange building. I do know that, and I know a lot of people are going to be thinking like, what are you doing with this building? Because it is a really strange one, but I was trying to kind of get creative with it. I wanted something that was completely different to anything else that I built in the park, and I wanted something that really kind of stood out. You know, you've got to remember, this is like meant to, this area of the park is meant to be an alien planet, so you know, it is meant to look a little bit bizarre, and that's what I've gone for with this. You know, I've tried to make it look strange, you know, so that when people walk into the area, they're immediately going to think like, what is going on in that building? And like I say, the idea of this is it's kind of like it's like a mine almost. But then what we're mining for, we're kind of mining for these plants. I mean, we're on an alien planet, so technically there could be plants underground, you know, who knows? But that's kind of what I'm going for. I'm going for that kind of like weird aspect, like, you know, people are going to walk into this area, they're going to see that building, they're going to be like, what is going on here? You know, what is this building all about? And that's kind of what it's all about, you know, making this area, you know, different to everything else that we've got. I mean, I've seen people that do, you know, that just use generic buildings in every single area, and that does work. I've done that before myself, you know, just use like the generic sort of building blocks. But I really like what I've done with this. I've kind of used a little bit of the generic sort of blocks, and then I've also added on some of like the space themed blocks as well, and I just think it looks quite cool. It does, you know, granted it does look a bit bizarre, but you know, I didn't want to kind of repeat what I'd already done with the other building. I didn't want to have two buildings that looked exactly the same. I wanted to sort of try out different styles. And who knows, you know, if you're watching this, it might inspire you to build something similar, and you may do something better than what I've done there, because like I say, I've never used that building kind of type before. It's meant to be some sort of greenhouse, like in the game, that's what it's supposed to be. But I just think it looks really cool with that coaster, you know. I've changed the actual track to green as well, so it kind of all matches, and I just really like the way that it kind of turned out. I think it turned out really nice. You can see I've had a little bit of detail there into the queue line as well. We probably won't get that much, all of the detail done in this video, just because there was, you know, quite a lot to do, but we will go back over the next few episodes, of course, and we'll go back and add in any more detail that I've kind of missed in this video. But yeah, again, if you've got any more suggestions for this area, if there's any kind of like flat rides that you think would work really well, and if you've got an idea for that, then please do let me know in the comments. Within the next few videos, I will be going back through the comments section again, so if you do have any ideas at all, do let me know, and even if I don't use the idea, it might help someone else, or you know, I'll read out your idea anyway, so you know, everyone will get to sort of hear what your thoughts are. But yeah, you know, let me know in the comments what you're thinking. You know, if there's like a particular flat ride, or you think, you know, oh, this would look really cool, you know, by the drop or something like that, then just let me know. But yeah, you can see I'm just kind of adding little bits of detail there. I actually think now I prefer that coaster, the green one that I've just built, I prefer that over the one from the last video. Now, you can see what I'm doing on there now is I'm adding like a structure to make it look like a kind of like a mine. I've got to give all credit to iBen for this, because he actually gave me the idea to use them like lattice structures. So shout out to you, iBen, because I know that you've been watching, and I have stolen your idea there. I do openly admit, and I give full credit to you for that. But he did that in one of his parks, and I thought, you know, that's actually a really good idea. And it's not like, that's not custom scenery, that's just in the game anyway. So, you know, like I said, you know, we're not using any custom scenery here, but that's a really nice idea to get like kind of like a classic looking support around that, and I just thought that made it look really cool and made it almost look like a mine. But yeah, I was really happy with how that turned out in the end, so it was definitely, I reckon that's actually probably one of my favourite rides in the whole park now. I was really happy with it, and I just think it just looks really impressive, and I think it gives you like a really, you know, it would impress people when they walk in the area, and I think that's, you know, that's kind of what I was aiming for. So anyway, that's pretty much all that we've got time for in today's video, guys. So we are going to be heading off now, but do not worry, I will be getting some more Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 up very soon, so do stay tuned. Please do subscribe if you've not done so already, and like I say, leave your thoughts in the comments down below. But as always, I really appreciate all the support, so thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video.